Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Everything Horses and More weekly podcast. You all know who I am. I am Caroline Best, founder of the Tao of Horsemanship and everything else, everything Horses and More, Mastery Membership. You know, we've got this week, we've got our lovely Ariella and Brad Kelley. Mr. Kelley is Master Farrier. A lot of you know who he is. If you don't, listen in. He is amazing. And hi, Brad. Hi, Lydia. Hi, Becky. Hey, guys. Hey, everybody. We are good. We're always crazy busy like you. Running from one thing to the next and everything in between. It's all good. And okay, guys, so today, real quick, we have part 3. We're just going to keep doing a continuation because we never, like, this is endless. It's like when I talk about my work, it's like, wow, we could just talk about this stuff forever. So we have a masterclass beginner's guide to natural and balanced hoof care with Master Farrier Brad Kelley, part 3. And I'm just going to, you know, I'll be quiet after this, but we're just basically going to pick up where we left off a little bit, because we had so much more to say about it. And then whatever else, Brad, you want to bring into the conversation. Yeah, I mean, I've got the last podcast info in front of me. So if you don't remember, you know, I can bring up the points, because there were some major points.
Yeah, go ahead. It's been a while, so
I know. And listen, you guys, they really made it back to town.
Yeah. That was interesting. That was
yeah.
Unfortunately, I had to postpone my Monday's schedule to this coming Sunday because we couldn't get out of Dallas with the Southwest flights being canceled. So
that's right.
Had an interesting weekend. We flew down to Dallas. We're helping a severely foundered horse that has been written off by all the professionals down there.
Oh, wow.
So we're doing our best to help her and her owners to kind of navigate through the process. And there's a lot more just beyond the feet. The horse had been to 3 different equine hospitals and basically written off. The second hospital, she got salmonella because they didn't manage another horse that had salmonella properly.
Oh my gosh.
Sent her back quite a bit, but was already penetrating both front feet with her coffin bones, and then she ended up getting sepsis laminitis because of the salmonella. So that's another piece on top of it, and unfortunately, the horse has not been willing or had any type of drive to eat. So her owner has been syringing food and supplements and everything to get something into her. And so we're just kind of navigating the laundry list of medicines that she's on and pharmaceuticals and trying to get some things eliminated and adjusted.
Yes.
See what we can do to get her encouraged to eat. So her triglycerides elevated and
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So right now
thank God they have you.
Yeah, right now we're doing
because
dose.
Go ahead. Yeah,
we're doing a double dose of dextrose to try to get her triglycerides down and hopefully get her appetite back, and taking off some medicines that were for controlling diarrhea, but she's still dealing with that to a point, and so I don't feel like those medicines are really doing anything. So we're looking at some alternatives to control that. Here's Lucas. And
they know you're sad, you guys. They lost one of their dogs while they were away this weekend. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Oh my God.
Another interesting piece. So yeah, it's just been a, you know, and my, I guess the problem for me is you get so invested, you know, in these horses. And so you're not just trying to help the horse, but then you're walking the owner through navigating these different issues. And so fortunately enough, you know, we were there 2 weeks earlier, worked on her for the first time at the last equine hospital she was at, got her feet stable. But then in between the last 2 weeks is when she ended up dealing with the sepsis laminitis. And then I found a couple of subsolar abscesses that everybody down there said the horse didn't have any abscesses. And I was like, well, she's standing with her toe on the ground. I said, she's got a subsolar abscess, and found it on the x-ray. I said, it's right there, and went and searched for it and found it. That drained for about a week and a half. And so then she was able to bear weight on that left front. Then her right front, she went non-weight bearing. And I said, well, it's probably the same thing, subsolar abscess, which is common when they found her and you have that much damage inside, you have nothing but necrotic tissue. And so she was cleaning and packing the left front foot. And then when she went to set it down, she unfortunately stepped on the right front, damaged the coronary band. And then the next day it just blew up. And like from the middle of the hoof all the way around to the backside of the heel just blew out and distended upwards, and just a bunch of pus and, you know, junk. So I think by her
Oh my gosh.
coronary band, instead of it going out of the foot, it just blew out the top, you know. So ended up doing a bit of a surgical procedure. I grooved the hoof wall, which with that you come down about approximately 1 inch below the coronary band, 3/4 of an inch to an inch below the coronary band, and you actually cut a groove horizontally through the hoof wall, through the outer wall, the inner wall. And what that does is that actually allows that capsule, because with laminitis, founder, you have nothing but inflammation, you know, there's just encapsulated.
Yes.
So it allows that pain to dissipate by allowing that foot to kind of expand a little bit.
Yes.
And then also what happens is as that new foot grows in and you have this old foot growing out, you don't have any impingement in between the two. So the new foot can grow in unencumbered, the old foot grows away, and there's just the pain goes away dramatically.
Okay, stop. How the hell did you learn all of this?
Grooving's been around for a while. It's not readily practiced. I did a lot of research, finding ways to alleviate pain by, I guess, artificial means, you know, not dealing with medications, because of the salmonella, her hindgut dealing with ulcers, and just, I mean, her digestive system has just been under absolute attack with the salmonella. So they've been very hesitant to put her on any kind of NSAIDs or anything like that. So trying to do anything and everything I can to alleviate pain at the hoof level. And things like that, it's not readily practiced. You know, it freaks people out when you see things like that. Like I remember looking online years ago, and there was a picture of a hoof, and they had taken and drilled little circular holes out of the outer hoof wall, and everybody just was enraged by it. But what it does is it just kind of, I don't want to say weaken the hoof capsule, but it allows that hoof capsule to expand. It allows it to,
yes, makes sense.
And so while it looks weird, it's not something you would do to a healthy foot. We're not dealing with a healthy foot. And so it's all about alleviating pain at any, you know, way possible.
Yes.
So I've done it before on another horse and had real good success. You know, typically about a week to a week and a half after you do that, pain goes down dramatically. Within an hour of me grooving the hoof wall, where that coronary band had distended upwards and outwards, and flesh was hanging over the wall, and it was impinged. Like you could just tell anytime she tried to put pressure on it, it was pinching up inside that coronary band, and it was just extremely painful. Within an hour of me grooving the hoof wall, you could see the tissue had visually decreased in size and swelling. And so,
calm down.
Yeah. And so, you know, there's, I wouldn't do that to every foot or every founder case, you know, everything, there's a, you know, certain step that you take. And I try to do is little as possible, but as much as necessary. And so with this horse, the necessary piece took us to a little bit more work than what you would typically do. So
Oh
And
my
fortunately,
God.
the horse is a great patient. You know, she's really, really good to work on. She knows that we're there to help her. Um, yeah, you know, the way that they had originally handled the feet, which she showed me x-rays of the feet back in June when she just won 8 world titles with the horse in Texas. And then July she foundered. And I guess at the show, the horse was kind of pulling the heel up off the ground. So they originally had diagnosed changes to the navicular bone and navicular bursa, navicular bursitis. They approached it from that standpoint and did some different type of shoeing. She did okay for a couple days and then got worse. And then, you know, they looked and she had foundered. And so then they put her in some Nanrick Ultimates, which is a composite shoe that actually elevates the heels up very, very drastically. And the mindset there, the thought behind that is to take pressure off of the flexor tendon, the pull of the flexor tendon, which, you know, would decrease the amount of rotation. Sometimes that works. I mean, it's not something you would do for every horse, but there are, I've come across 2 horses where I had to put them in a slight wedge, nothing like an ultimate, which is, you know, very high, and then you graduate it down over time. So I'm not saying that that's like a necessary, like a bad thing. There's a few cases that it's warranted. It's like, let's say a club-footed horse that founders, you know, it would be a case where you would want to use something like that because they are dealing with a flexor tendon that's in a more of a contracted state.
Yeah.
And so to dump those heels down would be catastrophic.
Yeah.
But it's a rare situation. And so they did this with her. And from looking at the original x-rays, she was already mechanically foundered to begin with. Her toes were way long.
So let's talk about that. Brad, hold on. This is great. Like I follow you pretty well, and you know that because I love to learn, and I've had a lot of experience with a lot of different stuff. You know, but for the average horse owner that only has 1 horse or 2 horses or a few horses, and that's their experience, and then something like this can happen or does happen. What is a mechanical founder? Because it's like when I rescued the 2 out of the 3 racehorses off the track, Joey and Billy, they had stress founder, but no vet, only 1 vet, my vet, but not until I found my vet at that time. No vet told me about stress founder. I literally did my research and I came up with, well, this has got to be impact related stress founder because they have long toe and no heel. And it just makes perfect sense. And then there's going to be rotation, and then there's going to be, you name it. And so it's like, I guess where I'm going is there's so much to learn, you know, on the basics of this stuff that is happening all the time. Like stress founder happens a lot to horses, not just in the racing industry, because of how hard, how horrible their trims are. You know, they're not balanced and they're not correct. And then you're talking about mechanical, and I heard about this before, mechanical foundering. So what is mechanical foundering? And it's obviously related to horrible trims, you know, am I correct?
Yeah, mechanical, just I mean, we try to set horses up at a mechanical advantage, meaning breakover is exactly where it should be underneath the tip of the coffin bone. So when that horse breaks over, when this hoof breaks over, they don't have to step over a long toe, which would then put stress on the flexor tendon, and it would also put stress on the lamellar connection between the toe of the hoof wall and the dorsal edge of the coffin bone. So I'm not sure if you can see this or not, but this is a early X-ray image of Pedro, and you can see where his coffin bone, where the tip of the coffin bone is, but his toe is way even beyond the picture. So mechanically, every time Pedro had to take a step, he had to step well over close to 3.5 inches to 4 inches of toe before his hoof would break over. And so it put all kinds of stress on that lamellar connection, which was basically, you know, his coffin bone was basically hanging out in the middle of nowhere. I'm not sure. Are we still connected? Can you guys hear us? Okay. Well, anyways, folks. So we were talking about mechanical founder and what that refers to. Kind of blown up the X-ray from Pedro. So you can see when we trim horses' feet or we apply a shoe of some type, like in my case, glue-ons. This right here is the center of the coffin joint. Having all kinds of technical difficulties. So this is the center of the coffin joint right here, and that's where you want to have your 50-50 balance. So you want to have 50% of the foot behind this point and 50% of the foot in front of this point. And so you can see here on Pedro's feet, on his x-ray, prior to him actually foundering, he was probably sitting at about, I would say, 30% of the foot sitting behind the center of the coffin joint and 70% out in front. So there was tremendous strain between the toe of the hoof capsule and the tip of the coffin bone, and that lamellar connection that was pretty much almost non-existent. So for him, for Pedro, it was just, a perfect storm when he had his tick-borne illness, and of course his diet wasn't right, and then obviously the Farrier work was absolutely abysmal. He lost all connection, and he not only rotated, but he sunk down through the hoof capsule, and that's why his coffin bones were hanging out about 3.5 inches at his worst point. So that's mechanical founder, is when you have the mechanics set up for the foot. The mechanics are actually working against the foot and working against that connection, working against keeping the coffin bone suspended up in a high position in the hoof capsule. So that's what the horse down in Texas was dealing with prior to any other issues taking place, was the fact that her toes were too long, too far forward, and her heels were too low. They had her set up in a shoe with a 2-degree wedge, trying to elevate the heel. And even at that, the coffin bone was sitting at a basically parallel to the ground, and so maybe even slightly negative. So she was actually having to not only step over her toe, so to speak, but she was actually having to kind of climb uphill to get that coffin bone to a positive angle. And with that, she was being, she was in work, or she was, being shown, which the owner, obviously didn't have any idea what was going on with the feet. It's not the owner's issue or the owner's fault. But unfortunately, the horse was working with these mechanical disadvantages, working against the foot. And so it was just a matter of time before that was going to just have a catastrophic failure. So that's mechanical founders. Is like, say, the mechanics are working against everything that we're trying to support for the horse. So purely a situation where the Farrier work was just not good work for the horse. Yeah, so we went down there to Texas, and my first issue was trying to realign the hoof capsule to the new position of the coffin bone with realignment trimming. So in this hoof, you can see where the coffin bone is sitting at a normal angle, at a positive angle. She had rotated downward, and so I had to actually trim the heels to match the new angle of the coffin bone. So it would actually sit the back of the foot down, which would then get the coffin bone at a more natural angle. Then after that, because she was penetrating through her soles, I had to come up with a way to get her coffin bone protected from the ground. Because if you have too much ground pressure on the tip of the coffin bone, then you wind up with a situation where the coffin bone can erode or can erode. So this right here shows you what a healthy coffin bone would look like. And here's one that shows a coffin bone from a chronically foundered horse that's had just way too much pressure on the tip of the coffin bone, and it gets eaten away or dissolved. The more coffin bone you lose, the less able the horse is to grow soul. And then obviously the less options or the less availability you have to actually grow in a good tight connection, because there's just not any material there for the hoof to connect to. So what I did during the first visit is I actually put her in a set of the modified Easy Slippers glue-on shoe. And the reason why I did this is because the breakover for the shoe is actually right in the center of the shoe. So it's considered a full rocker. And so basically what that allowed me to do is, if you're looking at, here's your coffin joint right here. When I realign the heels and then set this shoe up around the coffin bone, I'm able to get breakover directly underneath the coffin joint. So there's like zero breakover. It was effortless for the horse to actually step over the toe. And that relieves any and all pressure, any and all mechanical forces. It alleviates that from the coffin bone. It enhances the availability of blood flow to the foot throughout the hoof capsule, which also gives the horse the best chance to start to grow soul again. Now on this last visit, we went down. I actually went down prepared with several different options, because she had been dealing with the sepsis laminitis because of the salmonella. And so she actually had further rotation in the x-rays. So it had worsened in 2 weeks. And so I went down with a few options that I had made, one being a removable boot. And what I did is I cut the bottom of the boot out, and I removed the tread pattern off the bottom of the boot, except for the frog support, or in this situation, I'm using it as more of like a heart bar. And then what I was going to do is apply one of these Sound Horse Flex glue-on composite shoes. So this is considered a direct glue shoe, but it's very flexible. It still allows the foot to function. The heels can expand and contract. And then what I was going to do is actually attach this to the bottom of the boot with some machine screws, and that way I could place mechanics wherever I wanted to, and it would allow them to actually put the boot on, take the boot off if need be, to do anything and everything to the foot. But when I got down there and saw the condition of the foot, I also did that with just a glue-on shoe. So I went prepared with several different options. Spent about 3 hours, 4 hours here modifying shoes. And but what I ended up putting her in is a Sound Horse aluminum, a Morrison roller. And what I did is I actually put a heart bar in the shoe. And the reason why I went with this is I wanted something that was a little more, would provide a little bit more stabilization for the hoof, because again, I knew I was going to have to end up grooving the hoof wall. So I didn't want to take away the stability of the hoof capsule. And this allows easy breakover. Breakover is actually back here underneath tip P3. And with the heart bar, that stops the sinking of the bony column of the leg through the hoof capsule. So on the good side, each time we've been down there, I was actually able to get the coffin bone up into a higher position in the hoof capsule each time. That helps alleviate pain. Let's see if I can find the x-rays. Yeah,
Wow.
so here's a picture of the shoe when I modified it and put the heart bar in. So this is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Beautiful.
And let's see. So here's from the back. You can kind of see this sound horse shoe. It's actually got a therapeutic rim pad, and then there's a therapeutic pad on that heart bar. So it's a very, very soft yet supportive pad. Here's what it looks like when I set it on the ground, so you can kind of see what the foot was going to be sitting on. It left a window in the bottom, so there's zero pressure underneath the tip of the coffin bone. And what I did is I ended up filling that void with a Shore 15, or it's a very soft dental impression material. So I wanted to keep any kind of possibility for rocks or anything putting pressure on the foot. Made it removable so she could, because what I've got her doing is making a sugadine solution and covering the foot with the sugadine, which it helps toughen up the sole. And if the areas where she's penetrated, it actually starts the cornification process. So, and it's also very, good being an antibacterial formulation with the iodine. Let's see. So here's the x-rays after the shoes were applied. So here's your DP view, and you can see we've got balance really, really good.
Yeah.
And then here is, let's see, here's the lateral view. So we've got the coffin bone at a more natural angle. I'll find what it looked like when we first started so you can see a comparison.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see.
And if anybody has any questions, go ahead. Sabrina's always looking out for questions, so go ahead and just leave them in the comments area. Okay, Brad. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And then there's after.
Look at that. Oh my gosh.
So, and then you can see the void that we left underneath the coffin bone, and then I filled that up with compression material.
Wow, what a difference.
So, and a lot of the work I did, I was laying down on my back underneath the horse when she was actually laying down. So, we do what the horse comfortable. She's a really, really sweet horse. Really, really hopeful that she's going to pull through this. The owner is extremely dedicated.
What stage would you call this? What stage, like in, is this a stage 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, for like how severe, the severity stage would this horse be in?
Well, the problem is we're dealing with several types of founder and laminitis. So it's not a simple fix. It's not a simple case because, we can deal with mechanical founder. That's not a problem. You just fix the mechanics of the foot. Whatever you need to do is you grow the new foot in. No big deal. A horse that's chronically foundered, again, not a big deal. You're going to fix more of a mechanical side, and then also metabolic side if there's any issues there. With her, she's dealt with mechanical founder. She's dealing with metabolic issues. She's dealing with sepsis. She's dealing with not eating. She's dealing with lack of strength. She's dealing with all these things. So she's about as severe of a case as you can get. To the point nobody down there wants to touch her. Matter of fact, the owner said that her husband was like, you've been down here 2 days and you've given us more hope and more help and provided more results in these 2 trips than we've gotten in 3 months at all these big name clinics. And, and we go into it, my wife and I, we go into it, obviously we're the eternal optimist. And I feel like you have to be in these cases. I mean, obviously you want to stay grounded, and you look at the horse. You don't want the horse to suffer beyond a point out of selfishness. But at the same time, you have to be willing to allow the horse to go through this stage of suffering to get through the other side, where then you look back on
Yeah.
it celebrating.
Yes.
With
I get
Pedro,
it.
they both
Well,
had.
and you have the experience too. Yeah, I mean, Brad, most people don't, like you said, I mean, most of us, the horse would have been put down by now. And you are the last hope, but you come with so much experience. It's like, you know, as a business person on my end of things and a marketing person, I'd be like, oh my gosh, how could we market just the one area? You have many areas of expertise in what you do, but that one area, the death sentence area, like, wait, people, wait, there is hope. And in your experience, you know how far you can allow the horse to go in their suffering before you go, wait, but there's still 10 things we can try. It's kind of like in my work with rehabbing horses, is like, oh no, wait, I'm usually the last resort.
Yeah.
And people have, you know, sent their horse to 10 other people, and I'm like, nope, this is a fix, but at this stage it's going to be a long haul, because all this damage has been done that has to be removed, exfoliated, right? We've got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Real quick before we continue, we do have a question, and who is that?
That was from Lydia.
Lydia has a question for you.
What's the difference between a cowboy toe and a 4-part trim, and why the cowboy trim?
Lydia wants to know what's the difference between a cowboy trim and a 4-part trim. Brad, are you familiar? What's the difference between a cowboy trim?
I'm not sure about the cowboy trim. I'm not familiar with that as far as, I mean, it's nothing that sticks out in my mind that anybody really necessarily refers to. Now the 4-point trim, that was developed by Gene Ovanek. He spent a lot of time out with the Mustangs, and his theory is of course you have 4 points on the hoof. You've got your toe pillars, which is like your 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock position of the foot. So, you know, here and here is your toe pillars, and then your heels are the other. That's the 4 points of the foot that basically support the horse on the ground. And then what he does is he marks, they go across from that point, and then they basically square the toe off. So there's like just like the toe is completely squared off. So his theory is to make breakover just as easy as possible.
Yeah.
My problem with that is I've seen, you know, so they've made this EDSS, which is a company that he's a part of or affiliated with, and they made their EDSS natural balance package, or the shoe, and it's got a square toe. And I'm not sure if it's related to the shoe or the trim or what, but I've worked on many horses that have been in those packages, and the coronary band has been actually like squared off. So instead of it having like a round shape coronary band, the coronary band is actually has more of a flat appearance to it. Yeah. And then around the toe pillars, then it rounds out again. And you can change it over time with doing away with that trim and trimming it how the horse would naturally wear its foot. It will regain that shape over time, most of the time. I've had one horse that I've worked on that was trimmed that way or shod that way, and I don't know if it was just done for so long, but he never quite got that shape back to the coronary band. I don't subscribe to it. Now, there's times where if a horse has a really long toe, a toe that's forward, and I want to improve breakover without a glue-on shoe type option, I want to ease mechanics for the horse. What I'll do is I'll map out the foot, and I'll find where breakover should be, and I'll do a slight 10-degree bevel from that point forward, because we know that from breakover forward, there's nothing that would create a sensitive situation for that horse. But what it does do is it reduces mechanical stress on that area. Yep. So we're going to alleviate that toe from continuing that forward migration. So I do that in those situations, but for the most part, on a healthy foot or even a hoof or a foot that's not healthy, I'll trim the foot just like the horse would naturally wear their foot. And most of the time, if you think of a horse that has a squared off toe, they've got a situation going on. They're either dragging a toe, there's something wrong.
Yep. Smoky.
And it's typically in the body.
Yeah.
So you want to look at, some body work. So, but that's what the 4-point trim is. It does work for horses. I mean, you're making breakover easy. It's just not like a natural, I just don't subscribe to it. Now, if the cowboy trim, I've just not heard of that term.
Hold on for a second. Hold on.
But a cowboy trim, it's a trim term used in Idaho frequently, and it takes the toe off by removing hoof wall on outside and rasping toe off.
It's a way of cowboy trim comes from Idaho, and it's a way of removing the toe, like you're talking about, and the hoof wall
On outside and
on
the
the outside.
Oh, so they're basically trimming the toe back from the top then.
Yep. Okay.
They would be setting the foot up on.
So that's the difference.
Vertically backing the toe up this way.
Yep. That's the difference right there. That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
and I don't subscribe to that either.
That doesn't make any common sense to me. I'm all about common sense. Like, how does this biomechanically, I don't know. It just,
yeah, there's seldom times that I'll do work from the top of the foot. One is when I'm working on a foundered horse and we have all this disconnected toe that's out in the middle of no man's land. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to back it up because it's providing, again, mechanical stress.
Yeah.
Negative stress against that connection we're trying to grow in. So I'll do whatever I need to. Most of the time I'll do most of it from the top, and I'll set the foot up on the stand, and I'll give the horse that proper angle and shape to the foot that it's supposed to have. Whenever you do that, whenever you work from the top, you're thinning the wall. So I wouldn't do that on a regular basis, just because we don't want to continually be thinning that wall down. We want that wall.
And it makes sense because you guys, when you think about if you're cutting it off that abruptly, sharply, like here's instead of the toe being rounded more like my hand, it's cut off more severe than when it's growing out. It's almost like it's weakening the hoof wall. It just, to me, that, instead of rounding it, it gives it that support to keep growing maybe under and then strengthening. It's like filing your fingernails.
Yeah.
That's why we round our fingernails instead of just giving them a blunt cut all the time. I don't know.
Yeah. So
my way of thinking about it.
Yeah. So trimming from the top, I'm talking about rasping the outer hoof wall.
Yep.
The foot on the stand.
Got it.
Theory of the foot.
Got it.
I will.
Well, that would make it weak.
Yeah. I will do it when, like, if we have a flared hoof, flare a lot of times equals pain and discomfort.
Oh my God.
And it equals negative pressures working against the coffin bone and that coffin joint, lateral cartilage, the internal structure.
Not supporting it. Yep.
So, but many times there are flares, like let's say you have a flare, like this horse right here, this draft horse has a flare right here through the heel quarter. You can kind of see it there, how it really wings out there.
Yeah.
If you guys want to have fun and you want to make a little bit of extra cash, anytime you see that, just bet the horse owner $20 that the bar is laid over and up against the sole. And 99 to 100% of the time, you're going to win $20. So in this situation, here's the bar. I don't know if you can see, but see how the bar is laid over across the sole?
Yes.
See the direction it's laid across? It's pointing directly at that flare.
Yes, it is.
So by typical methodology, what they do is they'll put this foot up on the hoof stand, they'll take the rasp and they'll say, oh, I'm going to rasp this away and make it look nice and pretty. The problem is is that's a symptom. This is a symptom. So what's the cause?
Yep.
The cause is the bar that's laid over
Yep.
the sole. What it's doing is
Yes.
kind of that horse places its foot on the ground, it fills up with dirt and it spreads. It's putting outward pressure on the sole, and the sole is putting outward pressure on this wall. And the hoof wall from heel through the heel quarters is naturally thinner because this part has a lot of movement. So the foot flexes the most at this point. And so the more outward pressure this places, this wall gives to that pressure and moves outward. So the way to correct this properly is to trim the bar, get it off of the sole, and start to train the bar to actually grow in an upright position. And
Yes.
so what I'll do in this situation is I'll trim the bar, straighten it up, and then I'll just put a steep bevel on the hoof wall from the bottom. So when that foot hits the ground, it has more of a squeezing effect on the foot instead of a separation force.
Amazing.
Then over time, then once you get this flare down so far, yeah, if you're down about right here and you have all this corrected, I'll take my rasp at that point and I'll clean that up and get that out.
Amazing.
So
All right, we've got another question, my dear. We've got a couple questions if you don't mind, and then we're going to have to wrap this up. But that's also good that we've got questions. Who's the first one, hon?
Karen Day.
All right, Karen. Hello, Karen. Oh, I see it? Do you ever look at the sole ridge? Is that the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to read them. It's a little easier than repeating them. Okay, Brad, do you ever look at the sole ridge at the toe and use that as a marker to trim to that point from the bottom, of course?
yes.
Yes.
When you're moving, when you have a horse that has a long forward toe, they build that ridge up as a means of creating their own breakover. So horses are smart. Horses are very smart and they adapt. They adapt to mechanics to the best that they can. And so when you get to that point, that sole ridge grows basically where breakover should be. So as you're backing that toe up, you would continue backing the toe up until that sole ridge disappears. Once the sole ridge disappears, you know you have breakover where it should be. Now we know through hoof mapping and through hoof dissections, we have different markers on the foot that we can actually map the foot out and show where breakover would be. So, one good way to do it is to find where the true apex or tip of the frog is, measure back approximately 1 inch. That 1 inch point should line up with where the bars naturally stop. And then you go forward 1.5 inches, and that takes you to where the tip of the coffin bone would be. And then you go forward 1/4 inch from that point, and that's where breakover should be. So that breakover isn't like a trim point. That just shows you where breakover is.
Yep.
So then you're typically going to be approximately about 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch ahead of that to where you would actually have your bevel. But yes, the horse's natural way of showing where they want to have breakovers is they naturally develop that ridge. They're trying to get a breakover point ahead of where the toe is. So yes.
Okay, one more. Diane. Hi, Diane. Sass Leonard. Question. All right, I have x-rays of a horse I got back in June of his forelegs. It showed the right toe really long. How much is too much at one trim to trim off? That's her first question. She said a farrier recommended to cut 1.5 inches off, which made my horse have difficulty putting pressure on that hoof. He ended up rearing when they tried to put the shoe on, so they had to sedate him. So her second question is, or maybe it's the same question, what should have been the proper trim and how to handle that?
Okay, so in my opinion, again, we're talking about mechanics and mechanical advantage. So what I would do is one of two things. If I wanted to get really aggressive and just go ahead and take the toe off and get it established where it would be, I would put the horse in a set of composite glue-ons for support. Definitely not steel. I would use a composite glue-on. And a lot of times what I do, just as an example, is I'll put them in like one of these LCs from Easy Care, the Love Child, and I'll actually cut the toe out of the shoe,
Hmm.
and I'll allow the foot to come over this area. So breakover on this shoe is actually way back here. And so I might not get real aggressive, or I might just get real aggressive and just, dress that hoof out and make it exactly where it should be. But then because we're doing this, we're exposing the foot to much more stimulus, much more ground pressure in places where it's not been used to. Also too, anytime you back the toe up, you're taking pressure off the heels. The longer the toe gets, you put more pressure onto the heels. And so for the horse, physiologically, you're changing a lot. And it can just be that massive of a change that kind of puts the horse into shock. It might not be necessarily a painful foot. It might just be like, holy crap, where's my foot? Like, how do I work this thing? And so they look like they're disjointed and
That's
really
a good
crazy.
point.
And it's going to take a few days for them just to get used to new mechanics. Like, okay, I don't have a toe here anymore. I don't have to step over it. Now, how do I do this? So in those
Yes.
situations, a lot of times I'll put them in a composite glue on, give them some support, and they'll walk off just fine, no problem. If I want to be conservative, I'll do what I discussed before, and that's I'll find where breakover should be, and I'll take my rasp and I'll do just a slight 10-degree bevel from that point of breakover, leaving a lot of that toe. If it was like real long, I'd take the toe back some, but then for the rest that I was going to leave and kind of work this problem over a period of time, I would just take my rasp and do a slight 10-degree bevel where breakover should be from that point forward. So mechanically, even if, let's say this toe is way out here, or let's say the toe's right here, but it should be back here, mechanically the horse is breaking over back here, and this toe then is really a non-issue. So when this foot is sitting on the ground, if this is the ground plane, this toe would kind of be slightly up some. From rasping that 10-degree bevel. And that, again, we're putting that horse back into a mechanical advantage, not a mechanical disadvantage. So two different ways to approach that. A lot of times we work on these feet and you might have 3 or 4 different pathologies that you're having to deal with. My number one thing is breakover. So a horse could have high heels, a horse could have low heels, a horse could have flares, a horse could have thrush, a horse could have white line disease. You could have a whole lot of stuff. And sometimes you can do too much to a foot at one sitting. So I always say, find what's the most important issue for that horse. In my opinion, and it's just my opinion, and you know what opinions are like. We all have them, but in my opinion,
but yours is based on experience.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Yes.
In my opinion, whenever you look at any appliance that we put on a foot, it's always got something to do with putting breakover, like giving a horse an advantage to breakover. Any glue on, most shoes, not your typical rim shoes, there's no mechanical advantage to that. But most composites, it's all about creating a mechanical advantage for a horse. So the first and foremost thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put breakover where it would be if we had well-connected wall from the top of the coronary, or from the coronary band all the way down to the ground. That way, when that horse steps, not only is he stepping over easily, we're also protecting the navicular bone and the flexor tendon. We're taking pressure off of that area as well. Now, if you were to do this and then lower heels and, address flare, a lot of times you're going to do too much to the horse. And like say, physiologically, you're going to shock the horse. So address one problem at a time. You're always going to be back there. And you might, in that situation on that one horse, you might say, okay, instead of coming back in 5 weeks, I'm going to come back in 2 weeks. I'm going to come back next week and we're going to address this issue. And then I'll come back in another week and we're going to address that issue.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, so anything we can do to help a horse regain balance around the center of the coffin joint, keep them comfortable, because if they're compensating movement, they're going to go backwards. So you might come in and you might carve out the most beautiful looking foot, but if the horse has to tiptoe around for 5 weeks because of the pain that's followed that,
Yes.
you're
I've got
going to go
Robin's
right
question.
back to square one. So,
One more question for you, hun.
Okay.
And then we're going to have to wrap it up.
Sure.
Hold on. Okay. This is from Robin. And a lot of people, Robin, I'm right there with you, and he's going to be able to tell you exactly how to change this, because he did for my horses too. Not only did Brad help my horses have, all of them supposedly had thin soles. Yep. And they all had thrush or white line, and they don't anymore because of Brad. So Robin's question, Brad, is my issue with Deja is and Deja has laminitis, if I'm correct. I
Is
might
this
be wrong, Robin.
Is this Robin in South Carolina?
Robin Brown?
Yep. If this Robin, I
Yep,
owe
and-
her a big apology, but she's been trying to get in touch with me, and my schedule has been so
Oh, yeah.
crazy. So Robin,
Yes.
I haven't forgot about you. I can feel you throwing composite shoes at me from South Carolina and boinking me upside
That's
the
right.
head. We're actually going to be traveling out to see you, I guess, and so we'll have a good visit out there and get your horse set up really, really well. So
Yeah. Yeah, because she's got thin soles, tender when walking on rocks. So was Sundance, Robin. Would you grow a thicker sole to help with the laminitis? He's he'll be able to solve all of that.
yeah,
So-
looking now that's and her horse is a good example. So looking at the x-rays that her horse has, she's dealing with thin soles. She's dealing with a toe that's way too far forward. Palmar angle is decent. So in this situation, she's being kept in a perpetual state of laminitis because mechanically the advantage isn't there. And so when we get out there, when we fly out to see you, we're going to work on getting the toe back. And in her situation, I'll more than likely get pretty aggressive with the trim.
Mhm.
And then what we'll do is we'll support that with a set of glue-ons. The reason why I want to do that in her case is because this horse has been dealing with this year after year. And so there's only so much that lamellar connection can take. And so in these situations, a lot of times I'll ask a client, or I'll just let a client know, hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's your options. A, you can prolong this over a period of months and maybe even years. And your horse would be mostly sound sometimes, but have, potential, difficulties. Or we can get real aggressive, put her in some composites, and she might have a day or two where she's pretty tender, but then after that, she's going to have a lifetime of soundness. And 90% of the time, people want that lifetime of soundness, and they're willing to put up with a couple days where the horse, might have to have a gram of bute or, whatever. Every horse is an individual. So, but in her horse's situation, I would definitely not only back the toe up to get break over where it should be, I would also realign the heels with the position of the coffin bone. There's quite a bit that we can do to break this cycle of this chronic laminitis. So this isn't like an acute situation. This horse is chronically laminitic pretty much year round.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So we're gonna fix it. Again, I apologize. And even my clients here, I'm getting 70 to 75 text messages a day, like 15, 20 Facebook messages a day, emails, calls.
You need, where's Ariella? You need an assistant.
Plus working on 30 plus horses a day. So
Hi, cutie. God bless you. I know. And Ariella works full time and takes care of all those animals, and she's your assistant.
Yeah.
When do you guys sleep?
Superwoman. This weekend we slept from about 3:30 to in the morning to about 8. But no, so there's a lot that we can do for Robin's horse. Again, I apologize for the delays in my communication. Ariella's done a great job communicating with her in lieu of me.
Well, yeah, that's understandable.
But I've been getting so many, all the vets here now refer to me for all their emergency cases. So like right now I've got 40 foundered horses I'm rehabbing. And again, that leads me to a point that we made last time that we
We
did
need to
this.
clone you.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about doing, like obviously clinics. We're going to start doing clinics.
And you can do
Sure.
virtual clinics too. You
Yeah.
guys can set stuff up where you did a great job with your phone, having your slideshow, more or less, not just your phone, but a slideshow where you can show case studies and talk about how you care for the case studies and film all this, and then you sell it.
Yep. Yeah. And then we want to start
Stop
doing.
giving it away. And you need an apprentice. Yes, you need at least one apprentice who wants to learn. They'll never be you, but they want to learn.
Well, and we're talking about maybe even starting up like a school, to where people can come be trained.
That's right. Remember, they pay you. They pay you to learn.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot. I've had a lot of people wanting to do ride-alongs, but there's just when I'm out in the field,
No.
with 30 horses, I don't have time to show
Nope.
different things.
And it's not fair. No, don't do it. I'm going to give you a lot of advice on that because one, they're either want to steal your ideas and there's no way they could possibly grasp. You weed through all those people and you pick and choose who's got the right attitude, skill, talent, and wants to learn. Because Brad, they're just going to try and pick and choose what they want from you. And you're learning everything, you guys. This guy's a lot like me. I mean, he researches the hell out of everything and then he puts 2 and 2 together and connects the dots. I mean, these people are just picking and pulling what they want. And it's connecting, and then they're going to steal from you. No, it's connecting the dots. And then as the last thing I'm going to say, because we got to wrap this up, as a business person to you, Brad, you need right now it's fine being Brad Kelley, the Farrier, but you're going to need an LLC and you're going to need a business and your school needs to be called something.
Yeah.
So you need that. This is just amazing. You can't keep going at this pace.
Yeah, we've got a lot of fun stuff. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming in the future. And I see myself being more towards the severe rehab stuff. Maybe keeping 300 some odd. Right now I take care of 650 horses up here every 5 weeks, plus Florida, plus,
Well,
and so,
hey, you haven't even been to California with one of our other street students yet. Wait till you get hooked up with her, and then it's going to be hundreds more that are going to want you.
Yep.
Yeah. So listen, I hate to wrap this up, guys. I'm like Brad, my schedule's tight too, and I know you got to make up.
Yeah, I've got to go.
Thank you so much. You are a saint and a godsend. And we're going to have you on, as everybody knows, every month. So thank you, everyone. And you know how to get in touch with Brad. And our condolences, our sincerest, deepest condolences for your losses. They've lost 3 pets within a month, And I told Ariel, I said, unfortunately, things always happen in 3s, you guys. I don't know why, good and bad. So bless you. We all love you. Stay tuned for next week. We've got one of our students, Becky, here for a private immersion, and she's going to be on our podcast. Becky, you were in today's podcast too. It doesn't always have to be about riding. There are other things you can do. And after that, we're going to end the month with my dear friend and soul sister, Erica, who apprenticed under me many years ago. Self-care, we're going to talk about self-care for the 3rd chakra, how this can help you in your relationships, horses included. And the 3rd chakra is a tough one. That's our fire chakra. And most people are afraid of their power. So, all right. Thank you, Brad and Ariella. Love you guys. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Yay.
All right. Yep. We'll be down there soon.
I know. Bless you. Or listen, what if the flights aren't working? Are you going to drive?
We'll find another plane.
God, you're gonna need your own plane.
I know. We were talking about we need a helicopter.
Anyone out there who's driving jet, PM me.
No, helicopters are dangerous. You're not allowed. Just get yourself a little plane.
There we go.
All right. Bye, guys. God bless you. Bye, everybody. Okay.